What's going on, guys? Danny here from Metal Couch, and we're continuing with our Bolt Thrower discography review today. Today we're going to be talking about their second album entitled Realm of Chaos. Now, Realm of Chaos is an album that I've only heard a few tracks from before listening to it for this particular review. So a lot of this is going to be first impressions on some tracks, but some of them we'll talk about in great detail a little bit later. First off, we have a very, very quiet intro, which surprised me when looking at the track listing. I was expecting something like a very slow, methodical build-up to the second track, Eternal War. But no, not really. It's actually very tame, very calm, and subdued. Then we get into Eternal War, which probably the best way to describe Eternal War is that it is an expulsion of all-out sonic fury. And right away, listening to Eternal War, my primary concerns with the first album are remedied. Number one, I can tell immediately that they've stepped up their game when it comes to songwriting. This sounds like, I don't want to say proper death metal, but it sounds like good death metal, if you know what I mean. Also, production-wise, it's a huge improvement over In Battle There Is No Law, which was my primary gripe with the album in the first place, was that the production was lacking in a lot of areas, and Realm of Chaos remedies that, as evidenced by Eternal War. Then we get into the track Through the Eye of Terror, which, in my opinion, is a great example of the guitar work on this album. It's very dirty. I don't want to necessarily say grimy, but it's drop-tuned a lot lower than what you would expect from death metal in this particular era. In fact, I can't really think of any albums off the top of my head that tune down this low in the death metal genre, mind you, in this particular era. So kudos to them for making that work. As somebody who's played guitar, it's, in my opinion, it's a little bit difficult to write songs that low. It's just, you get to a point where it's hard. We'll go with that. Moving on. Dark Millennium's highlight is that it has a solo in it which also conveys the intensity of the album. I think that this is a highlight track along with Through the Eyes of Terror. It's just a great example of how Bolt Thrower do their solos. And the intro to the next track, All That Remains, is... at first I thought that we were going to be slowing down for a bit. The intro for this is very, very slow, and I thought, okay, alright, so they want to give us a breather before they go into something a little bit more intense. No, it lasts for about half a minute, and then we're right back into what we were before. So, small chance to catch your breath before we get into a lot more of this intense album. Lost Souls Domain probably has some of the best riff work on the album, aside from one other track. This was a great example of Bolt Thrower writing riffs, in my opinion. Moving on. Plague Bearer. I don't really like this song too much, and I'm probably going to be talking about... I should probably talk about it more after the next track, because it kind of ties into Drowned in Torment, which is 2 tracks from now, so I'm just going to go ahead and skip this and come back to it. Then we get World Eater, which spends 2 minutes playing the most memorable riff from the album. I guarantee you that opening riff will be stuck in your head for days, if not weeks, after listening to this track. It's very memorable and a huge highlight off the album, if not the album's signature, in my opinion. So Drowned in Torment and Plague Bearer, to me, are the biggest drawbacks on this album. I did not think that either one of these tracks was particularly interesting in comparison to the other work that's on this album. The songwriting, guitar work, drum work, it's all great on this album, but these 2 tracks, they just, in comparison to the others, don't necessarily hold up as well. It's a bit of a shame, but you can't win them all. So, Realm of Chaos its biggest strength is in its drum work. Drum work is definitely highlighted on this particular track. I enjoyed it. I thought that the drum sections were phenomenal. So, and then we have ourselves a little 1 minute long outro to this album, which closes it out. I mean, it doesn't really add too much to the album. The same could be said with the intro. That doesn't take away from it, but it also doesn't add anything. It's just kind of there. And with that, the album clocks in at a little over 34 minutes, so a lot like In Battle There Is No Law, this is a relatively short listen. So for those of you who may not enjoy death metal, which I know there are people out there, but if you really wanted to get into Bolt Thrower, sure, this album is a pretty good length and very easy listen, in my opinion. This was a pleasure to listen to, this album. It's probably one of the, I wouldn't say it's one of the best albums I've ever heard, but considering what I've been listening to lately, this was a huge breath of fresh air. Realm of Chaos remains a highlight in their discography, and for good reason. This album probably will be in my top 3 of Bolt Thrower's albums. I really enjoyed this album, and World Eater will get stuck in your head for weeks, as I said before. So if I were to give this album a grade out of 10, I would probably give it a 9. And the reason for that, because I know there are some people out there who will probably think like 9.5, 9.75, even a 10. I really do think that Plague Bearer and Drowned in Torment really take away from this album. They're not bad songs, it's just that in comparison to the others, they're not as good, and that to me kind of takes it out of the album. You know, you're driving so hard and doing so well, and then all of a sudden you just hit a brick wall. So that's my feelings on Bolt Thrower's Realm of Chaos. If you've listened to this album, did you like it? Leave a comment in the comment section below. Danny here from Metal Couch, signing out.